Welcome to season 3 of Old Fashioned Marketing, where Walia and I, Andrea Lechner-Becker, we get together and we drink old fashions in the middle of the day, and we talk about how marketing used to be old fashioned and how we need to get back to good old fashioned marketing. Well, with that, welcome to season 3, episode 1. Cheers, Raj.
Cheers.
Okay.
So what's first on the agenda?
The first on the agenda is something maybe people might not expect from us, because we do talk a lot about how important it is for marketing operations folks to align themselves to revenue goals. And today's episode is actually about how this hyper focus on marketing being tied to revenue maybe is ruining marketing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an ironic thing, I would say, for us, or I guess it would maybe be a little unexpected.
Well, we're
going to explain.
Yeah.
We're going to explain why we think this.
There is a rhyme and reason for this, right? So the idea of everything, revenue has to be focused. Like we have to be revenue focused, but that doesn't mean we have to alienate everything that helps companies grow as a brand and as a presence. And part of this is kind of in 2024, since this is the first episode of 2025. In 2024, it's kind of been lost. Like the whole marketing thing about behind marketing has been lost, right? Because we talk so much about marketing has to stop being a cost center.
Yeah.
There's relative truths to that, right? Like HR is nothing but a cost center. IT is nothing but a cost center. But the two focuses that enable companies to grow, there are parts of marketing that you just can't either neglect, and you can't just be like, well, we need to make revenue off of that one portion in marketing. You know that one PR blog campaign?
Yeah.
We definitely need to associate something to it. And that's actually the bigger thing, is that we do have to be revenue focused, but that doesn't mean let's just get away from being marketers altogether.
Yeah, and so in your opinion, how did we get here? Like, how did we, what is your viewpoint on the trajectory of marketing and how we got to this place where now we've, I think, overcorrected into people being too focused on every single tactic and being able to say, this is how much ultimate revenue or profit or whatever that amount is of ROI that this one little thing got us. Like, how did we get all the way here, in your opinion?
The technology, right? Yeah, fucking technology. It makes our life easier, but I think there is a sense that we overcompensated for the fact that there's so much technology, multi-touch attribution. I mean, that thing.
Is it their fault?
MTA?
Yeah, it's the category's fault, right?
Yeah, it's the category's fault. It's definitely multi-touch attribution for sure.
Yeah.
And a slew of other things. But I think it's really the idea that we have technology that we hadn't before. Now we have a direct line of investment, and generally executives, such as herself, want to know how is the allocation, or how is the return on investment for those technologies, since we have a direct amount of money that we're spending on tech. How much money and revenue are we generating to compensate for it? I think that's the baseline. I don't think that's the overall, but I think that was the very first starting point of it.
Yeah, I think what had happened was that
what had happened?
Yeah, I think what had happened was that marketing, for a long time before there was technology to track it, was really able to do a bunch of shit, have a bunch of fun, launch a bunch of campaigns. And if you think about something like classic stories of marketing results in the ecosystem, in the ether, I guess I would say, right? There's that famous Super Bowl ad from Apple where it looks like a movie. It's directed by Ridley Scott, right? And it's 1984, and it's this idea that, it's Apple saying we are going to be the innovators. We are what Orwell talked about, all of this stuff. And then, but nobody was sitting there being like, how much money did we make from, what did that cost? What did Ridley Scott cost? What did the actors cost? What are we making back in the return on that investment? How much was a Super Bowl ad? Was it even worth it? Blah, 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 blah. Nothing was tracked in that way, mostly because you couldn't, I guess. And so then what also happened along the way is that B2B companies, maybe let's just be honest, have been doing not great marketing for a long time.
So no one, and I wouldn't say no one, I think there's companies out there obviously that I probably haven't heard of, but what I've seen is that no one knows how to build a brand.
Yeah.
Right? No one knows how to quantify what your brand and what your brand is intended to do. You're very good at saying we had this much of returns, we have this much MRR, ARR, PRR, OPP, yeah, you know me. Like we know all of these things, but what is your brand, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I confuse a lot of brand names, as you probably know. I'm not going to mention which brands I confuse, but there are, because it's the names, the brand, the identity. You know, we talk about PR, and our PR person's right over there. I'm going to wave to her right now. And what the job of PR is to amplify your brand. Well, the reason people don't invest in PR is because they don't know what the fuck their brand is about.
Yeah.
Right? It's all they see is MRR and ARR and how many clients and what your annual revenue is, but you haven't built a brand, and that's why people kind of, you know, tech hop so often. Like it's very easy now. Like people don't understand. Like it was very hard to do migrations, right? Now it's very easy. Like people understand it. People understand the tech space. You can move from one platform to the next, but what is your brand trying to convey? So, you know, one of the things that, as we've been talking about this, I realized, since we're talking about telling people, hey, you have to build your brand,
Yeah.
our chief strategy officer, who's done this a million times, what does that fucking mean? You know, because you laughed at me when I said just build a fucking brand. But like, what does that mean? Like, what is building a brand for companies in 2025 look like? Where should they start? What should they do?
Right. Well, the first question is, what is brand?
What is a brand?
So, in my opinion, and I'm sure that Webster has a definition of this, but I don't give a fuck what his definition is. So
no one likes Webster. He's been screwing us over on points our entire life.
Yeah. We just make up whatever we want anyways. The language is fluid.
We tell Webster what to put in the,
Exactly, sorry. Yes. So I like to think about and define brand as how people think about you when you're not in the room, right? So like even as a human being, you have a brand, right? Like you know people in your mind that you're like, that person is diligent, they are trustworthy, they are all of these things. That is their brand.
Yeah,
it's
not a morning person.
Right.
That is my brand.
That's part of your brand. Yeah. Very sleepy in the morning is part of your brand identity. But really, and there are brand archetypes. And so when you think about really well-known brands, like one of my favorite archetypes to think about is Home Depot, and their archetype is the everyday man, right? So like when you think about Home Depot, it's about doing it yourself. It's about you go into their store, and it's not like aesthetically gorgeous, right? It's not a Pinterest board. It's got orange shelves, utilitarian, like you go to a certain section, you get what you need because you are an everyday dude. They talk to you in no nonsense, no bullshit terms about getting it done, right?
So
like
back
that's
to
brand.
The orange part of brand.
Yes.
Yeah, right? Like the no bullshit, like to the point.
Absolutely.
Marketing automation consultants.
Yeah, like it's frankly like the archetype of our brand too.
Yeah.
And so that's like the fundamental thing that you're trying to achieve with brand. Now, there are certain elements of marketing that are more conducive to brand building than others. So some elements of marketing that are more conducive would be a lot of content is like very often a brand exercise because it is tone, it is voice, it is how you're communicating the message, and creative is often a very big element of brand as well. So you are focused mostly on those things, and then how they come into being really is like more where you're getting into like demand marketing, right? So like how they show up in your ads on LinkedIn and who gets served up that ad, that's all more demand stuff.
Yeah.
How much you're spending, the cost per lead on those things, like that's all your demand function, but really like the fundamental elements of like, who are we targeting? How's the best way to communicate to them? What's the best visual representation of this communication? And like, where should we go in order to do this? How do we use video? How do we use the written word? How do we use presentations? How do we use mass communication elements? That's all brand stuff that people, I think, should be focused way more on.
Yeah, and I think content syndication really kind of kicked everyone's ass here. When content, no, I'm serious. Like when content syndication came out, just know like the entire idea behind content syndication was, I want to relate how many people download my ebook or this case study. Like I want to spread this message as much as possible. And then somehow, somewhere along the way, we got into now how many people are converting on a blog. Like, wait, that's not the intention of a blog. Is a form of brand identity. Like what is your best practice? What is your go-to-market? Like how do you present yourself? How does, our PR company, Convey Communications, but shout outs, huh?
A lot of shout outs
I
here
know.
to PR today.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's one topic I'm not going to message she doesn't like, but however, the idea of spreading the message of you as a company is very, very unrelated to content syndication. I think somewhere along the way, people intertwine those things. Because when you syndicate content, you're trying to get people to download your content so you can have a conversation with them, so you know that there is there's applicable buying behavior or intent buying behavior. That does not mean a blog post that your CEO or your CSO or your VP, your SVP posted doesn't mean we need to relate attribution to that blog post. That is building your brand through the vessel of individuals' own personal brand, right? It's like Inception. It's like a brand, and then you like company brand, and then like your brand within a brand. So
yeah. Yeah, and I think that the part of the reason that they don't do it anymore is CEO's fault as well. Yes, because
what?
Yeah, because I think CEOs.
Am I part of that?
No, of course not.
Okay, cool.
No, you're a brilliant marketing positive CEO. It's like being body positive, but for marketing.
For marketing, yeah.
Yeah, you're a marketing positive CEO, which I enjoy. And I think but a lot of CEOs, they come from engineering or finance backgrounds, and they really want to run a business like science and math equations. And business is not that straightforward. If it was, no business would ever fail.
Yeah.
If it's just a math equation that needs to be worked out, everything would be great. But it's not. It sells into human beings, and it has a bunch of human beings working at these companies. And I think that what has happened in marketing is that CEOs who are very numbers focused have put a lot of pressure to be able to answer that question that MTA claims that you can get to an answer of.
Which it doesn't.
No.
It's just one piece of the puzzle, and that's where I think people kind of, I didn't mean to cut
No,
you
go
off,
ahead.
I'm sorry, but like that's one thing people don't understand. Technology is there to assist your marketing initiatives. Part of your marketing initiatives is PR. You're not going to be able, we can't value what our PR company is doing, but we do know that there's some sort of impact that it's having. If you want a hardline number, then that's not going to happen. Like just like you don't know how many conversations or how many LinkedIn messages, or if at an event that you had a conversation with someone and they remembered you and then they came back to your website. Well, that's web traffic, right? Because that's what MTA is going to tell you, or multi-touch attribution. Sorry, but that's what it's going to tell you. But it's not going to talk about all of the unknown impacts because it can't.
Yeah,
right?
and
So.
there's this obnoxious report that I won't even name the creator of, but it had this number of touch points that are required in order for a deal to come to fruition.
It's 100% bullshit, by the way.
And like any number of those it's not enough. Like people were losing their mind that the number is in the hundreds, and I was like, it's in the thousands. Like there are so many touch points that get you to a place of actually getting a deal done, especially in a new category. As an example, like if you think about marketing automation just in general as a category, right? Like in the early 2010s, you have John Miller, who was CMO of Marketo, out there evangelizing for this as a thing. Lead scoring, lead nurturing, none of these words were even part of our lexicon as B2B marketers until he made them a part of the lexicon by doing content marketing, by creating definitive guides to lead nurturing and lead scoring, and being in at every conference talking about these concepts. Like that old school, I guess you maybe call it, way of just like sharing your message with the world really takes a ton of reiteration, and people massively underestimate just how consistent you have to be and how many touch points it takes to really change behaviors. Like human beings we're pretty static animals. Like we tend to do the same things over and over again, think the same things over and over again. And it requires a lot to try to get people to change their perception or their approach to something.
Yeah, I mean, and how do you even calculate him sitting there speaking at every single event, right? Like
couldn't.
there's no way. There's no way. Like all the definitive guides that you talked about, all the PR stuff, even the Marketo Rockstar road shows and everything that they did.
Totally.
It spread the word, kind of like the marketing automation, quote unquote, gospel. But there's no way to tie it back to that. You know, if Marketo could have done that, not to harp on Marketo, but but I'm just saying.
It's just what we know the best.
Yeah, right.
You know,
it's just the brand that they built conveyed a message, and that's actually the best part about Marketo and the reason Marketo is. And now all those concepts have just been beaten into the ground so hard, where people will be like, "We're doing lead nurturing, we're doing account-based marketing."
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? How is your brand doing account-based marketing? Because what you really mean is you're taking a concept of nurturing and you are sending out messages and you're just trying to relate back to how many touch points it calculates to a revenue amount. Once again, we're not saying revenue is bad. Revenue is a good thing. But just
you need it,
yeah,
in fact.
You do need it. But the idea that we have to turn marketing from a cost center into a profit center is absurd. There are going to be costs associated in marketing that you cannot turn or relate to profit, but there are elements of marketing that you can definitely track.
Well, here's my one tip that I always tell people. If you're going to talk to a CFO or a CEO, never use the word like cost or spend. Always use the word investment. Because really, that is what marketing fundamentally is and should always be considered.
Yeah.
How are you going to invest in the story that you want people to understand, the hearts and minds that you want to change? What is that story? And I think that's another thing that's been lost. We talked about PR, but I think really understanding the psychology of who your buyer is, what they're looking to do in their life and in their career. Since we're in B2B, like the things that we sell, that our customers sell, like it's not old fashions.
Yeah.
You know, it's not cherries for your old fashioned. It's nothing about like what you personally are going to win or how it's going to improve your life, but like the stuff that B2B companies sell improves people's work, their jobs to be done become easier, they become more efficient, they can focus on things they like more. All of those kinds of things are the psychology behind why people buy B2B products. And I feel like that is fallen to the wayside in favor of this idea of like, what's the best practice around LinkedIn ads? Like, how are people segmenting LinkedIn ads? Like, I don't know, like who is your buyer and why, what story is going to compel them to do something? Because I think that all this eking out of conversion rates and all of that stuff has taken the psychology and really connecting to the human being that's going to actually buy your shit. It's put it on the back burner.
And that's why I say most companies nowadays, like our brand, and this is obviously me, like, hey, our brand is so good. People know G&W because the first thing that we invested in with G&W was how do we
Orange?
The color orange. Ooh, sorry, I touched the mic. He's gonna be mad. But the idea is like, how do you get the message across when you, as a company, when we were two people before, you know, Andrea and anyone else was here, is that we used a tagline, which a tagline is very easy to get across the message of what you do as a company, and it slowly develops from that. It changes and it evolves, and right now, the only thing that's evolving is people just putting out their financial numbers on LinkedIn. We did this month. This quarter, we're trending to do this. We're doing this. But what is your brand? Once again, it goes back to brand building. No one in the process of trying to be so revenue focused, we have lost what marketing is really, certain parts of marketing is really intended to do is to connect with the customer, your ideal audience, your target audience, your ICP, your, you know, whatever, PPCs, whatever acronym you want, the person that is going to buy your shit. And how do you as a brand relate that message by you coming to us? You are going to make your life easier, you're gonna do things faster, you're gonna take stuff off your plate. Like, what is it that you're trying to do aside from just toting your revenue numbers?
Yeah. Well, and that's always the thing when people do get into that I guess routine of like trying to over optimize for everything. Like the number of times that I, as a consultant, had a conversation about the best button color on a landing page. Like, no, it really doesn't matter if your content sucks and you're targeting the wrong people. You know what I mean? Like, back to basics, people.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the color of the call to action that is your
size.
problem. It's the entire thing is fucked. Yeah.
I mean, like, there's this one where someone says, can we increase the horizontal limit of a CTA button by 25%. I'm like, just because someone accidentally might veer their mouse off and click at the tail end of it, like what is the purpose of having a rectangular button that spans the entire email? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Now, I will say it did make sense back during like 2001 when HTML and CSS were a thing and design. Like, remember old school MTV's website? It was like,
No, I have no idea what you're
really,
talking about.
like, it was like a bunch
MTV's?
MTV, like the
Oh,
old school
MTV.
MTV. What do you think is it?
Well, I thought you said MTB. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
no, MTV's website, right? So it was 2 colors and it was columns, and the first person that challenged that was like the VH1, and they made a website with like CTA buttons, and everyone's like, "That's so cool."
Yeah.
Now just know you can buy it for like $5.99 on WordPress-themes-galore.com. That's not a website. Please don't go to it. But I'm just saying, like, those concepts at one point in time did make some sort of impact, but now as we evolved into marketing and marketing technology, they're less prevalent. Why? Because it's information overload.
Yeah. Okay, so what do the people do, Raja? What is the
Listen.
what is the takeaway
This is
from
the
this?
easiest-
Everything's fucked. What should they do
Yeah,
instead?
this is the easiest takeaway
Yeah.
on any one of our old-fashioned marketings. Build a brand. Build a brand that doesn't...
So easy.
Yeah, seriously, just build a brand.
Yeah.
Like, what identifies you as a company, build your brand, and then invest, not cost, invest in things that, knowing full well, you're not going to be able to understand what is the micro penny transaction dollar value relatable, right? Like, that's actually the biggest thing, is understand that there's certain things that you're not going to be able to tie into revenue, and the things that you can tie into revenue, those are the outcome of those said things that you've invested in.
Yeah. I like the idea of being very broad with what you measure. So like the way that I tend to think about marketing investments in general and try to coach our clients to get away from this idea of like nickel and diming, like this tactic brought in this much, it sourced this much revenue, it influenced this much revenue. I think that's a slippery slope for almost any marketing department that we should try to stay away from as much as possible. And instead, what we should really be doing is talking about this idea that there are bare minimum things you have to do, mostly because your competitors are doing them. And if you don't do it, you're going to lose market share to your competitors. So like there are baseline things you can't get away from. You have to do webinars, you have to send emails, you probably need a newsletter, you have to be posting on social media, namely LinkedIn. Like there are baseline things that you have to do. You have to show up to certain trade shows. That you shouldn't even measure because you're not going to stop fucking doing it regardless. You know what I mean?
What is the purpose of it at this point anyway? Like, we don't measure Adobe Summit. We have to be at Adobe Summit.
Yeah,
we have to be at Inbound.
There are just certain things you have to do. And so measuring them or investing any amount of time and energy in trying to say what it gave you in sourced or influenced revenue, I really think is like a total waste of energy. But what you should be doing then as a marketing department is saying like, okay, 80% of our budget is just going to be spent on doing table stakes things we can't not do. Then 20% of it is going to be big bets. So as a marketing department, where are you going to put your big bets? Are they going to be on side events at those major shows? Are they going to be on creating a magazine? Are they going to be on writing a book, flying every salesperson with a marketer to every sale, you can get crazy with it because that should be like 20% of your budget, 20% of your time, and that's the only thing you should really measure. And that's the thing that you should keep super, just like think of it like an R&D budget, really, like research and development of ideas that really move the needle in unique ways. And you can do all of that in macro economics, essentially. So you have what you spend on consistent year over year over year, and then you have these big bets that you figure out, like, how does it move the needle? Do people start talking about them? Like, that's, I think, how people should be really in 2025 adjusting their approach from this, like, just painful, like monotonous approach.
I think people need, once again, like I've said it before exactly here in this conversation, is like people need to get away from the idea that marketing has to be a 100% profit center. Once again, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to be able to calculate every micro touch point and relate it to something. It's not going to happen, right? So Yeah, I mean, to your point, like stop like getting so focused on things that you know you're going to do. It's not like you're not going to that one event conference. You know what it yields. You know what it's yielded over time. It's the same event logistically every single year. You're gonna go to it.
Yeah.
Like, why are you spending your time, resources, energy, and person resources? Like spending people's time trying to track it down year over year.
It's the biggest cost. And,
Yeah.
and investing in all these technologies you don't really need, investing in the people's time, investing in consultants to help you with this. Like, it really is not.
You should do that a lot.
It's not a good use of your budget. Yeah. It's just not. So that's, I think, our diatribe. Any final thoughts?
Relook at and reinvest in the technology you have, right? Marketers, more than other parts of the organization, have shiny object syndrome. So we tend to say, oh, look at this new product. Look at how good they're growing. Look at all the logos. Look at their annual revenue. Oh my God, this must be it. This is the thing that's going to get us to the next level. And the reality is, just use, that's exactly how they're marketing to you. They're marketing to you and selling you on this company that is growing so fast with all these logos, so you want to be part of it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good fit for your organization.
Yeah, but they are good at marketing, so good on them.
They're good at numbers.
I suppose.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Cheers.
Well, cheers to 2025 being the year that people invest in their brand.
Yes.
Huh? Let's do it. Cheers, Josh.
Cheers.